My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for staying with us. So government and the Bank of Ghana are under pressure to respond quickly with additional measures to slow the rise in inflation rate. This is after the April 2022 figure hit 23.6%, the highest in 18 years. The finance minister was asked today about how government intends to tackle the skyrocketing inflation and its impact on the consumer. Here is his response.
What can we do? I think really Cabinet was quite prescient about the budget that we had and the theme of building an entrepreneurial society is pretty clear. We're not even sure that these things were going to happen. So the 10 billion CD intervention, where you are then going to have people create their own jobs, you know, and have work to do, is going to be important and enhance productivity towards this. Because imported inflation, what are you going to do about food, fuel, you know, and financing from out there? The question is whether you can get our people working, whether our people can be more productive, so that we move towards, you know, an environment in which lives and livelihoods are protected, but people are in control of their destiny. Because we just have to deal with a new world order, and the tail of these things are usually long. The COVID tail is long. Now the Ukraine war is also going to affect that. So yes, we need to find a means of bringing skills, technology, and appropriate financing. Because we just have to deal with a new world order, and the tail of these things are usually long. The COVID tail is long. Now the Ukraine war is also going to affect that. So yes, we need to find a means of bringing skills, technology, and appropriate financing. You know, and once again, I'll give it to the Cabinet for thinking through this whole intervention of a development bank. And where, you know, the questions were, well, why another development bank? What is it going to do? Now we see what that is, $800 million of that, to be able to give long-term financing to various financial institutions.
The finance minister there, Ken Ofori-Atta, speaking at a presser to announce programs for the upcoming Africa Development Bank program. We can now speak with Dr. Williams Bepra, who is the Chief Finance Officer at the Valley View University. So inflation has come to be understood, Doc, as a global phenomenon. So it appears government cannot stop it, the skyrocketing numbers, I mean. Is that the case?
Thank you very much, Darryl, for calling me. I think that we shouldn't say that should be the case. So if you notice what really happened, according to the government statistician, the major items that really went up include food, which is something that we grow as a country. So if we have a program called Planting for Food and Jobs, what is happening to it that we cannot be able to control the price of food? In it, the main element, which is the driver, according to the government statistician, is transport. So transport went as high as 33.5%. So in a way for government to be able to control this element, what I'm going to propose may be something against what we normally do, but this is what must be done when a country is experiencing a high sky inflation in the country, which is affecting the livelihood of Ghanaians. So the first proposal which I am putting on the table is that government may have to look at this fuel pricing control mechanism. I'm proposing that we may have to be thinking also under price control in terms of fuel pricing. Can government be able to come in for a while, as they did when it happened until December, to bring some mitigation measures? Because the pricing control mechanism will slow down the growth or the increased rate in transportation. And already, after yesterday, we heard transport operators are even going to increase by 20%. So it will make the case very worse. So once we are able to control the transport sector, it will have a ripple effect on food. It also have a ripple effect on even the housing sector, which also went up, water and electricity, because all of these areas rely on fuel. So you look at it critically, government may have to come in and probably come in with a pricing control mechanism for a while, because that is a measure of controlling inflation. In terms of the monetary side, inflation simply means as a country, we are spending more than we produce our goods and services. So government may have to also look at a way to reduce the spending activity in the country. First, government may have to check its own spending. When government does that, the impact is that government will have to revise its growth rate that they have set for 2022. So the 5 point something set, I'm sure if government wants to stop the inflation, they must revise it lower, and government must reduce its expenditure. Central bank, as has already been mentioned, must be thinking of bringing what we call the contrasting monetary policy. That is, one, increase monetary policy rate so that it will control inflation, and two, also increase the reserve requirement for banks. In that case, banks will be limited by giving more money or putting more money in the economy. In effect, we have to intentionally, as a country, slow down the growth to be able to curtail what we are seeing now. If not, if it goes like this, it's going to go around the 1998, 1999, 2000 period where inflation was around 40%. And if we don't take care, by August, we'll be hitting around 40% inflation. So government must have an intention to make sure that it slows down growth.
40% in August, that's quite scary. Well, the finance minister this morning was asked about the rising inflation numbers, and he was essentially asked, how is government working to alleviate the impact on the consumer? And then he goes on about how this is a global phenomenon and talks about government's 10 billion cedi package to support entrepreneurs, create jobs and increase productivity. To what extent would this mitigate the impact on the public?
So if you understand how inflation works, the critical definition is that if a country, you have your citizenry spending more than you are producing your goods and service, then that is when inflation comes in. So the plan that I see the finance minister mentioning is to boost production. So if government is able to boost production in terms of goods and services, it will slow down inflation. That is why he was talking about the 10 billion agenda. So it is critical that we have to know the strategies and the sectors the government is going to push this 10 billion cedis into. Already, as we have identified, electricity is a major area which is also increasing and causing an impact on inflation. Water is also increasing and causing inflation. Is it a time that government may decide to give some subsidy to electricity company and Ghana Water Company to be able to slow down what is happening, their liquidity challenges, and increase their production? So the moment the energy sector increase their production, it will have an impact to reduce inflation.
We've had some analysts say that
and something that has been done in the research.
I was just going to point out that we've had some analysts say that subsidies for utilities not the way to go because the economy can't support it.
The argument is that I've mentioned that by August, our inflation rate will hit 40% if government refuses not to do anything. Month on month, between March and April, inflation increased by 5.1%. Should we have this trend going up, we will hit 40% by August. So you have the devil. Do you want to put in money to give subsidies to areas that is causing the inflation rate to slow it down, or you just leave it to chance? And that is why I'm even proposing the control pricing mechanism for fuel. so that we're able to control the inflationary impact in transportation sector, which is really affecting food sector. There are some areas that the inflation rates are imported, which we cannot do anything about it, like household equipment. We don't produce household equipment in the country, so we import. So we say we are importing inflation from another country. But these areas that I've mentioned are areas government can really have a direct impact, and it will really see a drastic reduction in the interest rate, inflation rate when government decides to act.
And you mentioned controlling pricing. Well, the finance minister was also asked a question in relation to that, not specifically to fuel pricing, but people are saying that prices are going up. People are taking advantage to increase the prices of products in the markets, and increase the prices of services as well. And so he was asked, should we start this regime where we will control prices? He says that is not an option. You agree?
I mean, because he believes in an open market economy, he says that's not an option. But entities that are 100% owned by the government can use controlling pricing mechanism there. So I've mentioned ECG is 100% owned by government, so government can control the pricing. Ghana Water is 100% owned by government, so government can use a controlling mechanism. And if you look at what the statistician said, these are the major areas that the inflation rate month on month were higher than the national average. So if I'm a planner or a strategist, I will tackle the 20%, the biggest area, which is having a major impact in our economy, before I come and look at the private sector. So the private sector, you cannot control the price, but entities that are within government domain, that their increases will destroy or have a major impact in government. Either you tell ECG subsidy of this amount to be able to help you to sustain, and so that you also not collapse. That is what is happening yesterday at PUR. So government will have to take that decision. Is the country prepared to absorb the over 100% increment request by these entities? Government will say no. So government will have to say, I'll give you subsidy so that you're able to reduce the price. And if you're able to do that, you will not get to the 40% I'm predicting by August.
All right. My last question to you has to do with the central bank, because the central bank increases the policy rate, and then we expect that to reduce consumer spending and ease inflation. But we are not seeing that happen, or is it too early to judge?
I mean, if you look at my last prediction before central bank came out with the March rate, you could see that what central bank came out with was even lower than the inflation rate. So central bank did not move the percentage points that we were expecting them to go, because they were expected to move to about 400 basis points, but they decided to go about 250 basis points. So the issue is that central bank must act and set the monetary policy rate. Now that we have inflation rate around 23.6, the monetary policy rate must be set around 27%. Always, in that case, to slow down the movement of funds within the economy. And people who also have excess funds will now be thinking of saving and be giving back the money to government. And this will slow down expenditure in the country. So the line with inflation, if you want to control, is to slow down expenditure within the country. And that measure must be well known. And we expect the central bank, maybe by next week, they should be meeting, because if now this month of April is 23, if transport fares goes up by 20%, it means that inflation is going to go around 26% the next time in the next announcement. And it means that monetary policy rate must be set around 28%. So if you go into history as a country, between 1999, 1998, 99, 2000, this is where we were before the elections. So similarly, that is what is coming.
Okay.
And if you don't take care, we must have to come in and give the subsidies. We must have to do all this. So government must act now and slow down growth intentionally so that we'll be able to control the inflation rate.
Thank you so much, Chief Finance Officer at the Valley View University, Dr. Williams. We appreciate your time.